Part 1 of the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC is upon us, and it is named the Teal Mask. That's a surprise to nobody, and I am here to give you my overview, thoughts, and review of the game. This is your warning now. There will be spoilers. So if you want everything to remain a secret, scroll ahead to the end of the video for my overall score, thoughts, and to see if it's worth your time. So to start off with, you end up getting a phone call from Jacques to meet him back at the school because, you were lucky enough to be selected to go on a school trip. Imagine that. It's like you paid for it or something. Once you arrive at the school, you are greeted by Miss Briere. And right away from my take, there is something off about her. She just seems to be super obsessed with granting access to Area Zero and figuring out more about Terrapagos, the rumored Terrapagos, and she reminds you that, there's a book and all this other stuff, and that, one of her family members had written it and all that other stuff. Once all that mumbo jumbo is gone, Miss Briere explains to us that we are going to go to Kitakami of the Unova region to continue our studies. Big hype about the Unova region. Once we arrive to the Unova region, we are immediately blasted with nostalgia, seeing the likes of Yanma, Poochyena, Cutiefly, Ekans, and many more to make us feel oh so happy. Our first task was to head to the town to get the caretaker that was to tend to a schoolmate that had fallen sick on the trip. We're immediately greeted by Carmine and Kieran, a brother-sister combo that immediately give off Team Star vibes, which inevitably means you're going to have to battle one of them. In this case, it's Carmine. Once that minor inconvenience is sorted, we find out that we are to wander about the region with our forced friend, Kieran, finding signs that tell us different tales of the Loyal Three. After finding the first two signs, you're requested to attend the Kitakami Mass Festival. There, you and Carmine have a chance encounter with the Ogre Pokemon that you find out that the Loyal Three had driven out of town. At that moment, the Ogre drops his mask and runs off. Kieran stumbles upon us, and Carmine tells us to keep the encounter a secret from Kieran because the kid is basically obsessed with the Ogre and doesn't believe that the actual bad part of the story or that the Ogre Pokemon is bad. We retrieve the mask and take it to Carmine and Kieran's grandpa for repair, as he is the descendant of a mask maker and knows the skill himself. At this point, we notice that the mask is damaged, and Grandpa can fix it. However, he feels the need to tell us the true story of the masked Pokemon, which we find out now is Ogerpon. Turns out he was actually not evil at all, but the villagers feared him and his companion because they looked different from the villagers. There was a villager mask maker, Carmine and Kieran's great-great-grandpa, it turns out, and made Ogerpon, that had made Ogerpon and his companion masks so that the villagers wouldn't be afraid of them anymore, and they were accepted into the village. The masks that were made of fancy, expensive materials, which caused a stir across the land. At that point, Monkey Dory, Pheasantipity, and Okidori catch wind of this, and their greedy nature takes over, and they make their way to town, inevitably to steal the mask. Ogerpon's companion tries to fight off the Loyal Three, but eventually, tragically loses the battle. Loyal Three take off with the masks. Ogerpon, devastated by this, led a life of seclusion after that. Kieran overhears this story and becomes mad with vengeance from hiding the truth from him. At this time, we are tasked with recovering the masks from Ogerpon while also gaining the crystals to repair the original masks. The only way to get the masks back is to defeat the Loyal Three, which is basically a battle that is exactly like the Titan Pokemon from the main game. Once we obtain all the masks, we give them back to Ogerpon. Ogerpon seems to take a liking to you and wants to follow you around. This only makes Kieran more jealous, and he asks you to battle for ownership of Ogerpon. You defeat Kieran, and this only throws him into a major rage, and he becomes consumed with becoming more powerful. That's basically the last we see of Kieran. And to finish off your actual ownership of Ogerpon, Ogerpon basically battles you as well, but he uses the power of all four masks to basically become its own terror type at that point. From there, once you actually gain ownership of Ogerpon, you go back to the school because you are basically finished off all the tasks that are needed to be, and that's where you find out that the Area Zero obsessed one herself, Miss Briere, is granted permission to explore the Area Zero more, and she must take Carmine with her. That's where the main story ends, but it basically pans back to Kieran alone in his room, basically obsessing over becoming more and more powerful, and then it basically says, to be continued. There's quite a few details I left out because I didn't want to give everything away. I want you to have some discovery and some fun yourself. That's not the only thing that is included in this DLC. There's actually two side quests that are included in this game as well. One involves Jacques, who snuck his way into Kitakami with you, and the other is with photography-obsessed Heron, who has instantly become a fan favorite. To unlock Perrin's side story, you must have at least 150 entries into the Pokedex, so we're going to cover Jacques' side quest first because, as you can imagine, his request is to fill the Pokedex. When you first meet Jacques, he will actually give you an egg. It's different egg for everyone, but it basically has the chance to be one of 3 Pokemon. It'll either be Turtwig, Chimchar, or Piplup. Mine ended up being Turtwig. Not upset about that. After that, it's basically your mission to complete the desk. Some of the evolutions can be tricky, like Basculin, because it has the same evolution method as Legends Arceus, which is basically taking 294 points of recoil damage without fainting. But from there, once you complete the dex, his reward is, well, to me, underwhelming. You receive a certificate stating that you completed the dex, much like the base game and all other games, and you receive a glimmering charm, and what it does is it increases the number of Terra Shards acquired from a successful raid. Very effective for those of you that are doing competitive battle if you need to change the Terra type of your Pokemon. To me, pointless. I would have found that a more fitting reward, being named the Glimmering Charm, would have been an increase of drop in Herbas so that we can make shiny sandwiches, but maybe they're saving that for part 2. Who knows? But to me, Jacques was a little disappointing. The Perrin storyline, however, was a great side story because the rewards were well worth it. Basically, she tells you that we're going to be on the task to find the fabled Pokemon Blood Moon Ursaluna. After you complete the frustrating task of taking 10 different Pokemon at night in the fog, Blood Moon Ursaluna ends up appearing. From there, you have to battle Blood Moon Ursaluna, in which, at the end, you get to capture it. You have to make your way back to town, which I did not know for a little while, but the reward was well worth it. So not only do you get to catch Blood Moon Ursaluna, which is a great-looking Pokemon, the story didn't disappoint, it looked pretty fantastic. You also get a Choice Scarf, which is but you also get a Hisuian Growlithe as a gift, which is great to me, and honestly, well worth the trouble at that point. So overall, part 1 of the Scarlet and Violet DLC, Teal Mask was fun, nostalgia-filled adventure, packed with loads of content, more amazing Pokemon, new Pokemon, intriguing characters that we're not done with, and it seems to have the performance enhancements that we were looking for to make the game more enjoyable, but there was still a couple hiccups here and there with frame rate loss. The storytelling was on point with the main game of the Arven storyline, but I would say just it's kind of one notch below, and the only disappointing part was basically the reward from Jacques that he ended up giving us. But if that's the only thing to be disappointed with, I'd say they've done a pretty good job of it overall. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. The only thing holding it back from a full 10 out of 10 was repetitive battles with Carmine and Kieran that kind of seemed pointless. They did help develop Kieran as a character a little bit. You'll get to see that development if you play it yourself. And, of course, the disappointing Jacques reward and minor performance issues with some leg and some areas that should be taken care of at this point in the game. We are basically 10 months into this game, so it should have been taken care of by now. But it hasn't been, so maybe it'll be taken care of in part 2. But overall, I do say go out and buy this game because it does bundle with part 2, and part 2 does seem to be bigger, better, and more exciting from what we are promised. That is the video today. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you all in the next video or the live streams that I do Monday to Friday. I appreciate y'all, and we'll see you soon.